Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Vladimir Karin, and I will make a short introduction before handing over to Adam Gardner to run today's webinar. I'm coming from company Albertina e-commerce Prague. We've been in the business for 32 years, and we've been serving libraries around the country of Czech Republic, and we are also active in Slovakia via our daughter company Albertina e-commerce Bratislava. We work with many international publishers. You can see some of their logos, but there are actually many more of them. Aside of that, we also work with providers of electronic services. You can see some examples here: discovery services, citation managers, citation intelligence tools, language correction tools like Rightful and similar. And we've been working with libraries around the countries, and also with the National Consortia for Electronic Resources, Czech eLib in the Czech Republic, and CVTI in Slovakia. Our today's webinar will focus on Policy Commons, a new service provided by a company called Digital, which Adam Gardner will then introduce to you. We are offering trials to Policy Commons. There are a number of institutions on trial. Aside of these, we are now starting trials at Pardubice University and the University of Economics in Prague. And if you are interested in what we do in more detail, please visit our websites, and you can also write to us via email, or we can connect via Zoom, as you may prefer. So that was for my intro, and now let me hand over to Adam Gardner, and let's focus on Policy Commons.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vladimir. I will just share my screen while I'm doing that. We're switching over, and we'll now put it onto full screen mode. Please confirm that you can see Vladimir.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, okay. As with previous presentations, I'm sure you experienced this with Zoom. I can't see you anymore, and I can't see any of the chat. So please, if there are any questions, Vladimir, please monitor the chat and let me know if there's anything in there. But please, if anyone does have a question, just speak up, and we can do it like that, handle questions as they come. So my approach today is assuming that you or your users, you as librarians or your users, are trying to find policy documents that are out there in the world, and you're struggling to find them, because that is the reason that we created this database, and also is a problem that we know that almost every librarian we spoke to previously said that they were having this problem. And so we decided to create the database Policy Commons. So instead of looking for these resources, we know that you can find them using our database. So what am I talking about here? Policy documents. These are things created by NGOs, think tanks, IGOs, governments, even cities, the city administration, metropolitan administration. They produce a huge amount, millions of reports and other kinds of documents every year, so-called grey literature, and they put them up on the web for free. It's freely available, high quality content with, it's very high quality and contains a lot of data and lots of good information. But how to find them? There are big problems here. There's problems of discoverability and searchability, related but slightly different. Problems of retrieval, of reliability, and of preservation. So taking each one of those in turn, let's explore what I mean by those. So discoverability. Well, these documents that we're talking about, they are not indexed in any database really until now. Of course, Google indexes everything. But if you're using Google as an academic search tool, you're going to get a lot of irrelevant content, a lot of noise. And it's quite hard, even for the expert searcher, to use Google to get access to this content reliably and quickly. So the lack of any kind of academic rigor around the lack of any kind of metadata or other structural features make it really hard to discover this content. And again, with metadata or the lack of any protocols like persistent identifiers, DOIs, for example, or ISSNs, without these things, it really is not possible to search for this content, even if there were databases that were looking for it. So we don't have the tools to look for it, and we don't have the structure to search for it without doing some extra work. And the reason for this is that people producing these grey literature documents, they're not publishers, they're not information professionals or librarians, they're researchers. Maybe the researchers would hand their manuscript over to their communications people in their organization, but those people are normally handling press releases or stories for news. They don't understand the significance of publication. And so they don't know about things like ORCIDs or DOIs or all of these good things, and nor do they care. So this is where we try to help. And retrieval. Well, if you don't know where these documents are held, there's no way that you can get hold of them. You can't retrieve these documents because you can't search or discover them. And they're free. It seems a huge shame that students, researchers, professors, librarians cannot get hold of this incredibly important free material. If you can find content, however, there's questions about reliability. Who has written this? Who has published it? Is it credible? Is it biased? Who is funding this research? Is it someone that's an organization that is acceptable, or is it some big pharma or big oil or something like this that is trying to introduce some bias into the results? Essentially, is the source reliable? And finally, possibly the biggest problem is preservation. Will the documents be there tomorrow? If you find something, can you come back to it? Will it be there again for your colleagues to look at? The broken link is perhaps the biggest problem with grey literature. Websites close, or websites are modified. Documents are taken down because they're seen to be of no use because they're 2 years old. Links break with astonishing regularity. But you could say, well, if these problems persist, they're problems for a reason, right? That no one sees the value in this content, so why do anything about it? But grey literature really is important. I'm using an example here on the screen of the COP26 conference, the climate change conference that's held every year. COP26, I believe, was in Canada. COP27 was this year in the UK, and COP28 will be next year. But during COP26, or in the lead up to it, a think tank from Yale University called Yale Climate Connections said that anybody attending or following online the COP26 conference should read all of these papers before the conference begins, all of these reports. Only one of them is in a published journal, a formal journal. The rest of these crucial reports for possibly the biggest issue facing humanity in the modern era, the rest of them were grey literature. And I think that underlines the significance of grey literature for doing current research. So let's just summarize what grey literature is. It's really important. Policy researchers rank it as the most important source that they have. And we estimate that there's $22 billion worth of research recorded in grey literature each year. You may have questions about peer review. Of course, this stuff isn't peer reviewed in the same way as a journal article is peer reviewed, but there is a peer review process that almost all, 88% of the content goes through a peer review process. If you think about it, the organizations that are publishing this material have a reputation to uphold, and their reputation depends on their future success with funding, with interactions with government and other bodies. So they must produce good quality content. I said there's a lot of it, and we estimate between 300 and 600,000 new reports per year. And it's across every subject. One might assume that it's across social studies, policy studies, but no, there's policy around everything. Astrophysics to zinc mining, as we say here, but just think about your home governments. There's policy around health, education, energy, defense, transport, housing, economics. It goes on and on and on. Every subject is covered. It's also extremely high impact. Here in the UK, I listen to the radio news every morning, and 2 to 3 times a week, there's an article that says a study by such and such think tank or NGO has found that, and then there's an important news story. So this sort of stuff reaches the media more than any book or any journal article would ever do. It's current, it's impactful, and it's here now to be used now. And it's an area that's growing fast. There's more and more material published openly online, but more importantly, more and more organizations doing it. So on the face of it, it looks like this content is brilliant. It's incredibly important. It does have some challenges. And we turn red with our graphics here, but the challenges are large, and they are what are preventing researchers from using this to its full. The content is scattered. You don't have like a Science Direct with thousands of titles and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of articles. You don't have one repository for it all. It's all over the website in different libraries, different organizational websites, government websites, etc. There is some bad stuff in there. There's fake reports, fake news, fake think tanks, commercial pitches. So you have to have some kind of filter for quality. I've already mentioned that the question of permanence is a problem with link rot, broken links, but also organizations stop operating, they lose their funding, or their project work is completed, or their government closes them down, this kind of things, and the content simply vanishes, it disappears. In our world of librarian and information science, we know all about the tools that we use to manage, discover, and manipulate online information, but most of this stuff has no tools. And simple things like version control just isn't there. And there's plainly insufficient metadata, usually nearly zero metadata. We have a title, we may have an author name, but not always, and we will have a date of publication. And that's usually all we have. But if I look at some of the examples of the kind of material you can pull out, there's really hard data here. Some examples here these are from This top one is from the USA. It's about the experiences of black and white people being stopped by the police, and it shows racial disparities. And this one is talking about community priorities and so on and so forth. But you can see hard data here with real numbers that can be reused. So what have we done about this? So my company, Coherent Digital, which is a relatively new company, but we are founded by people with decades of experience in the publishing world. We built Policy Commons, which is a platform of multiple databases. And in this case, the one I'm talking about is global think tanks. This is an abstract and indexing database for over 4 million documents of grey literature. We estimate we're adding 500,000 new records in most years, but right now we're in a growth phase, and last month we added 750,000 in 1 month. That's unusual. We're trying to expand the database, but you can see there's plenty of content for us to add just by the growth numbers. We're covering the content that is produced by more than 11,000 organizations, but we also have an index of 25,000 organizations, some of which don't have content, but the organization is interesting. Your researchers may want to collaborate with them. You may want to find what kind of work they're doing. For any customers that find that a site that they use is not included in the database, we will include it. Just tell us if there's a site that you use, and we will index that site and crawl the content. And in addition, we do have some ebooks, premium license content from the likes of the Council of Europe, their sort of human rights and law textbooks. Sorry, books, not textbooks, which is conventional material. It's not grey literature. It's conventional material that we think adds something to the collection. In addition to this, we have a growing collection of rescued grey literature. I mentioned organizations get shut down or fold for whatever reason. So we rescue their content and become the only place that this old grey literature was, may not even be old, but this unsupported grey literature is held. In addition to that, we have applied a whole load of tools that you'll be very familiar with, including counter stats, mark records, creating lists, landing pages, exporting into bibliographic software, etc. All of the things you expect are in place on the platform. Yeah, so in essence, and here are some of the logos. You may not be able to see them. Some will stand out, obviously, like the EU, because it's very clear, and various United Nations, World Health Organization. But there are many, many smaller organizations like Chatham House in the UK, the Cato Institute, Freedom House, the International, I can't even see it, ITU. So many, many organizations from around the world are included in the database. And I say around the world, we have more than 160 countries. In fact, it's more than 180 countries now. And we also include material in native language, in local language. So I'll show you that when I go on to the demonstration. But this is something that suppliers of information products often say, that, oh, we have multiple languages. And what they really mean is 99% is English, and they've got some articles from other languages. In our case, less than 50% is in English. The remainder is in other languages, non-English. Of coverage. DEI is diversity, exclusion, and excuse me, I've forgotten what the I stands for, inclusivity. So that's all the rage, of course, these days. But you can see many, many other subjects covered here. And the types of content that we have, primarily reports, but there's working papers, briefs, data sets, tables, charts, even speeches, transcripts of speeches by politicians and significant people are included in the database. So enough talking, let me shift to a demonstration. I have to stop sharing to start again. And this is the opportunity, if there are any initial questions, to jump in and let me know. But you should be seeing my screen now. Yes, I think you are.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, yep. So let's go into the demonstration of Policy Commons itself. I've said that Policy Commons is a platform on which there are 4 related databases. The one I'm going to show you most about is the one about global think tanks, which is all about policy. But there are others. If I click this modules, wait for it to load, global think tanks is what I'm going to show you. But we have these 3 other databases on the same platform, so all cross-searchable, all part of the same project that are covering different types of content from different sources. So we have North American city reports, and the similar thing for world cities. Cities actually produce a huge amount of material about their day-to-day affairs, and also about things that direct how they operate as cities. And of course, governments produce a colossal amount of information, and we are doing our best to capture this. We have 150 governments so far, and it's growing as we continue to add. But I'm going to go back to the main platform and just walk you through it. Hopefully you can see that it's quite a clean and obvious thing. Even the novice user knows what to do here. They can just search, do a basic search. We also have some options to browse the directory in different ways, either by organization, publications, and so on. And there's up here, there's the user area, which is an optional area for your users. They can create their own account where they can save their own searches, do their uploads, and do some personalized things. It's not mandatory, but it unlocks a lot of the functionality if they did this. What I am going to do, though, is rather than do the basic searches, I'm going to start the advanced search so you can see what's behind the scenes. As librarians and researchers, you're probably interested in how this actually works. And again, there's probably no surprises here. You can build multiple line searches. We have Boolean operators. We also have proximity searching, so near. Unfortunately, that currently can't be combined with Boolean operators. So that has to be a command line search. We're searching the full text, but you can search any one of these fields. But by default, we're searching every word in the document, which is powerful. You can set your date ranges, and you can see document counts against each year. And you can then start to focus in on organizations if you wanted. So I always try to demonstrate world. So we have where world appears at the start or in the middle of the name. So if we're looking for World Bank, for example, we'll find it that way. You can filter by types of organization if you know what you're looking for, or even types of document, again, if you know what you're looking for. So I mentioned speeches earlier. If you know you're just searching for speeches, and we have a small number of them, you could just select speeches, and that's all that would be searched. Here's the country listing. And you can see it is extensive. It goes on and on and on. So here we are down in S. We have Slovakia with 3,500. And if I go back up to Czechia, here we go, 14,000 from Czechia. Seems to be a little bit more activity or at least available content from Czechia. But yeah, content from all over the world. And this is where the content originates, not the country of the country of subject. So it's country of publication rather than subject, is what I meant to say. And then Again, I mentioned language, and here we have, this is probably closer to 140. The other is 180 or so. You see all the languages that are represented here. And if I focus in on Czech, we have 32,000 documents in Czech. So that's surprising. We had about 1,500 in total from Czechia and Slovakia, but more coming in the Czech language, which is interesting. Something that people often say is, well, that's great, but I only speak English, and English is here at 3.5 million. So actually now it's slightly over half of the 7 million records that we have in the entire database, slightly over half. But people say, well, I speak English and a bit of French. What use is Kyrgyz to me, or Midjif, or Norwegian Minorsk? The point is, you would not have been able to discover this content without a database like this. And the fact that it's in a language that you currently can't read is not the problem that we're trying to solve. The problem we're trying to solve is discovery and retrieval, and we've solved that for you. Once you have the document, you can then put it through your translation engine of choice, be that Google Translate or any one of the other commercially available engines. People also ask, well, why don't you translate? We don't see that as our role. We cannot be the translators for technical documents and documents that have a nuance. You need to be an expert in the language in order to properly translate a document. And if I scroll down again, you can see how you can select each of the different modules of the platform. I'm going to select global think tanks and search. So I'm searching on nothing. So I'm going to return the entire database, which is my intention. And you can see down the left side here, we have different facets that are showing us where this content is coming from. This is the entire database, of course, so it's showing us a lot of information. But by doing this, you can then, after your search, you can refine your search. I'll wait for this to load. It's a very big list. Let's just go for some. These organizations are very large. Let's just go for them. Possibly not the reason you would use this, because most people know to go to OECD or go to the World Bank, but we will get good results here. And this is the kind of result set we have. And I'm going to find a more typical. You know what? Let's not search on those because they are too big in terms of organizations. I'm going to search on smaller organizations that we may not have heard of. Right. If I change by, here we go. Right, now we have some, let me just select some random organizations. So here we see, oh, this is a good one. That's quite timely. It's a little bit old. It's a few years old, but it's about Israel and growing relationships with Arab states. So this is a typical record. If I click into it, we can see the record itself. On the right side here, there's a link to the organization. So you think, well, what is that? No idea what that is. Let's have a look. And we can see who has published this. And you can make your assessment of what they are, what they do. And then beneath that, everything that we have from them is listed. It's another way to get into their content, but it's not the sole way, but you can browse into it. So yeah, I like that organization. I'm interested in what they have to say. So let's just explain the rest of the page. We have a persistent identifier here. This is a little bit like a DOI. We call it a coherent identifier. It's not a DOI though. We can't apply DOIs to this content because we're not the publisher of it. Only the publisher or the author may apply a DOI. We're trying to do our best by applying our own though, so it at least has a persistent identifier. The title is shown here and the date that it was published and a thumbnail of the front page. If there's no image, there'll just be a sort of an icon to show its text. We have some options to share to socials by email or even just to copy the link. Every item has a permanent link. So you can copy that and drop it into your teaching notes or onto a website or wherever you like. It will never change. We have some guidance on how to cite this article, because citing grey literature can be difficult. It doesn't really fall in very easily to any of the citation formats. And you can download this straight into your citation management software. I forgot to say on the previous page, when we had the results set, you can download the entire set into your software as well. And then we have functions to add to a list. Now, lists are user-generated functions or sets that anyone can create for their own purposes. They could build their own libraries, or they can an academic can create a list for students to read, or these sorts of things. Okay, so what happens when I click view? Well, we're not a database of content where you can consider us to be an index. And we're pointing to where the documents reside. Why do we do that? Why do we not host it ourselves if it's free? Well, there's a few reasons for that. The first being that's, number one, it's morally not correct. It's not the right thing to do. But the main thing is that these smaller organizations, they really need the traffic to their websites. They really need visitors to come along to them. So we pass all of our traffic directly to them. We do keep a copy of every document, though, just in case this link breaks. If it breaks or the website goes down, we put up our copy of the document. But let's just click view. And you may see, hopefully you did, that another window opened. And if we look, we're now on their website. My previous page tab is still open, but this new one has just opened. And we're now just straight into the PDF. And as it's PDF, you can download it or print it, do whatever you like, whatever you would normally do with a PDF. It's all here. And it's that simple. It really is that simple. Other things to say, well, I mentioned lists. And what are lists? This is user-generated content. I said that it's one of the features that are available up here when users create their own free workspace. So use it, and you can see that anyone can create this stuff. And what we have examples here where people have, or academics, teachers, have created lists that relate to individual teaching modules in their universities. These are module codes, course codes. So you can see that it can be used as a teaching aid, but it can also be used as your own personal research aid. Now this can be, if I go back here to select lists like this, this is the sort of how one can manage lists. And if I edit this, we can see that if I were to create a list, I can give it a name, write a brief summary about it, change how it's displayed. And crucially, I can change the permissions. Who can see it? I can either make it private, share it with my colleagues at my institution, or I can make it completely public to the whole world. I do have an example of this on screen, which has recently been made and is very timely in the news. Now, this was made by my colleague Heather just last week, and it's taking key resources from the Israel-Hamas conflict and giving a balanced, objective view from considering all opinions. So it's a great list that I've found here. But you can see, really, with the exception of this nice image that you can have along the top and the summary describing what it is, it's really the same as any results set. You have the facets down the side, which you can further filter and further refine the search, and you have the results set. So if I click this one, 20th of October 2023, so quite recent, only a month old, and it's exactly the same. We see the organization here. We can look at the organization to make sure it's something that we trust. There's also this item does appear in a particular list, and it's referring to the list we're using, but you can always see where it appears. And the same features apply, and we can go straight to that document again. And again, it's a PDF that's on someone else's website, and we're straight into it and do whatever we want. Download, print, etc., etc. So that's a very quick overview of what we have with lists. Another, I'm just wondering, yeah, there is one here, there's a few here. Another feature that we have is that we identify tables. Our software can identify where tables appear in records. I'm just searching for one that has a few options. I may be out of luck in this case. No, I don't really have any there. If I click tables, many of these publications have very rich data tables, and you can see them here. Tables of content, such like, that are quite rich and contain data that you may want to reuse. So if I click this, I can show it to you. Our software identifies these tables and has the ability to extract the data. Now, this isn't very interesting. It's not really numbers. I'll try and find one that has numbers because it's the best demonstration of how it works. Okay. It's not great, but I'll use this one. So we can have, our software identifies the tables, kind of cuts it out, if you will, and presents it in this way. So you can then download this view, which would just be like a JPEG that you can drop into your own presentation. Or you can download it to CSV, to Excel. And that's just happened here. Let me open it and move it across. And you can see it's downloaded that whole table. It's a small table. It's quite basic, but it's done the job. You've got all of the data you're looking for in the columns and rows that you could see previously. I draw your attention to this special character. Sometimes it falls over. It cannot interpret what's called the M dash. It's not a hyphen, it's an M dash. It can't interpret that, so it's substituted a character. However, it's done that consistently, so you can easily do a find and replace, find, replace. If I just do this, find this, replace with dash, replace all. There we go, we're done. And now we've got a usable set of data that we can reuse. That's a very simple example. Just imagine it was a very large table of raw data that you wanted. Your alternative would be to type it in manually, potentially make a lot of mistakes, and spend a lot of time doing it. There's a very quick example of tables, but hopefully you can see how valuable that can be. If I go back to the start, does anybody have anything that they want to cover here? Anything uncertain? Any questions that you may have? Or do you have some searches that you might want me to do that I can expose some content for you? I take that as there's not. So I think that really concludes the demonstration. We could do some, just to fill some time, we could do some more searches. Let's use these examples. So these examples here are sort of quick jumps in to show the sort of material that's there. What this is doing, it's a proximity search. Ukraine near NATO. So it's searching for documents where the words Ukraine and NATO appear within 15 words of each other. I could change that and say to within 5 words of each other. Run that search again, and the result set is quite a bit smaller, 3,929. And you can see here where the search terms appear, they're highlighted in the results set. And some of these are much more detailed. Again, here's some tables, much more detailed results that are appearing here. One thing I want to draw your attention to, just for this one search in the past week, we added 110 documents. For this search, NATO near/5, sorry, Ukraine near/5 NATO, for that particular search, there are 110 new documents in the past week, which I think is astonishing. And I challenge anyone to find a more current database. And if I sort by date, we can see, look, 15th of November, last week, new items. Very often I will find records that were published yesterday when I'm doing a demonstration. So it really is current. It's really up to date. The grey literature is published extremely quickly, unlike journals. And you can have it and use it in your own research extremely quickly using a database such as Policy Commons. Now, in addition to the small think tanks, and I've never heard of the Center for Long-Term Cybersecurity, or, well, I have heard of the Cato Institute. IFRI is a French international relations organization. These are quite small organizations, but as you saw previously when I was searching, we also include content from very, very large organizations like the European Union, World Bank, OECD. We have all of their content, all of it included in this database, and it can be accessed in one search. So for the first time ever, you can cross-search World Bank, OECD, Asian Development Bank, International Monetary Fund, all in one search, in one place. And I think I will leave it there now. So Vladimir, over to you. If there are any other questions, or if people have searches they want me to explore or content they want me to explore, please let me know.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adam. If there are any questions, please unmute yourself and feel free to ask. We still have some time, so if you want, we can use it. If there are no questions, then let me...
No, thank you. So that's Mislav Pečerna from University of Hradec Králové. And so, hello. And so, thank you.
Hello.
But I need time to absorb, so it was fine to listen to that. And so, but I need time to play with that, so to play with these functionalities. So,
of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, we suggest if it's of interest to you and your colleagues, just please contact me, and we can arrange a free trial for the University of Hradec Králové for 1 month, so that you'll have plenty of time to play with the full functionality and everything. The same applies to everyone else, for sure. Also, if you'd be interested about the price for policy commons. It depends on the size of the university, but we'll be happy to provide you with a price quote on request. Policy Commons is a subscription product, basically, but maybe that's something, Adam, that you can explain, because I noticed that there are some purchase options as well.
Yeah, it's what we call it is a hybrid option. So the basic approach is a 1-year subscription. Although we also offer a 5-year subscription, but only charge for 3 years. So it's 5 for the price of 3. But then there's the option to have a hybrid between subscription and purchasing the ebook content that I mentioned. So the ebooks are from Council of Europe, from the African Book Collective, and a few other key small publishers with very important content. You can buy that stuff and then continue to have the subscription at a reduced rate to the material that to the rest of the database. So that's the hybrid option, we call it.
Okay, that may be of interest for some projects that provide funding at the beginning and then require some sustainability period. So
yes, and we can combine the two. So offer the 5-year subscription and the purchase of the material. So you have a good 5-year block that you can use one-time money for.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Doesn't look like that. So I would like to thank everyone who participated. And of course, I'd like to thank Adam for his presentation and live demo. Please get in touch with us if you are interested, and we'll find a way how to provide you with what you need. Thank you. Have a nice day today, and let's stay in touch.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.